Hey everyone. You know how we're always getting requests to do a deep dive into the science behind happiness?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, today's the day. We're tackling Stumbling on Happiness by Daniel Gilbert.
Great pick. It's really interesting how our brains try to predict and experience happiness, not always in the ways you might think.
Right. Like when I first read about the frontal lobe thing,
Oh, yeah.
total mind blower. Gilbert basically says it's the key to us humans being able to imagine the future.
Which is actually kind of recent in terms of evolution.
Yeah.
Like way back, our ancestors were just stuck in the present moment. They couldn't really plan or think ahead, like a lot of animals now, basically. I
Yeah.
mean, can you imagine experiencing the world that way? Just reacting?
Wow, no. It really makes you appreciate what our brains can do.
Totally. And Gilbert uses this really fascinating case, this guy Phineas Gage.
Oh, the tamping iron guy?
Yes. I mean, it's a classic in neuroscience.
Mhm.
He had this horrible accident, like a metal rod went straight through his head.
Oh,
But the crazy thing is, he survived. Though his personality did a complete 180, went from, like, responsible and organized to impulsive and unable to plan.
that's wild. So his injury basically proved that the frontal lobe is essential for thinking about the future.
Exactly. Sad story, but, important for understanding the brain. But, okay, so back to how we think about the future. There's this thing Gilbert calls optimism bias,
Uh-huh.
and it's basically our tendency to, like, overestimate the good stuff that'll happen to us.
Yeah, we think we're going to win the lottery or our kids will be geniuses, right?
And at the same time, we downplay the bad stuff, even common things like, oh, I don't know, a heart attack.
It's weird, right? With all the craziness in the world, you'd think we'd be more pessimistic. But Gilbert has all these stats about how people like overestimate their chances of being in the newspaper
Yeah,
and underestimate things like getting gum disease.
right. It's almost like we're programmed to be hopeful.
Yeah.
Get this. He even says that this optimism is really resilient. Like, he looked at studies of earthquake survivors, and after the initial shock, they bounce right back to their, usual level of optimism.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing, right?
It is, and it definitely makes you think about how you deal with risk.
Absolutely. Understanding this bias could help us be a lot more realistic about, well, everything, really.
That's a good point. But then there's this other thing, the illusion of control, which makes me think our brains are kind of messing with us when it comes to happiness.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Like how our minds want to believe we're in charge, even when we're not. Like when people bet more on dice, they can throw themselves.
Yeah. As if that makes a difference.
Or if you pick your own lottery numbers, you feel more confident, even though it's totally random.
Totally. But I guess that feeling of control, even if it's fake, can, be good for us.
Yeah, that's what Gilbert argues. It can actually reduce anxiety and make us feel better overall.
So a little bit of delusion is healthy.
Maybe. It's like our brains evolved to find ways to cope, even if it means bending reality a bit.
Yeah.
But, of course, that can lead to some tricky situations, especially when we're trying to figure out what will make us truly happy.
Because even though philosophers and scientists have been, obsessed with happiness forever,
For centuries.
Gilbert says we're actually pretty bad at knowing what'll make us happy in the future.
Yeah. And you know what? One reason is we're not that great at remembering how we felt in the past.
Seriously, our memories of being happy aren't accurate.
Not as much as we think. Gilbert uses this study with color swatches to prove it.
Color swatches.
Yeah. People were shown a specific color, right? Then, just 30 seconds later, a lot of them couldn't pick it out from similar colors.
Wow.
And get this, if they tried to describe the color first, they were even worse at remembering it. So it means our memories aren't like recordings. They're more like reconstructed each time we access them, which means they can change.
So we're basically editing our memories as we go.
Exactly. And this whole editing process, it's a lot like how our brain deals with the blind spot in our vision.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. We don't actually see the blind spot, right?
Uh-huh.
Our brain just fills in the gap. Gilbert compares it to, get this, the Meatloaf of Oz.
Meatloaf of Oz. Okay, now I'm intrigued.
We think we're seeing the whole picture, but our brain's secretly filling in the gaps without us even realizing it. And that's not just for vision, but for our memories, too. Like, our brains are always telling a story, but maybe some details are a little off.
Makes sense. And that filling in, it can really mess us up when we try to imagine future happiness.
Oh, totally. We might be basing things on memories that are, well, not entirely accurate anymore.
And And then there's how we feel right now. Like, doesn't that affect how we predict future happiness too?
Yeah, that's a big one. Gilbert calls it the reality first policy. Basically, our brains prioritize what's real over what we imagine.
So, like, if I'm stressed out right now, it's hard to picture myself feeling relaxed on that beach vacation I booked.
Exactly. It's like your brain's stuck in stressed mode, so it's tough to really feel that future
It's
happiness.
like trying to picture sunshine when you're in a rainstorm.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And he calls this trying to pre-feel happiness, which can be, well, unreliable.
Because our current emotions are so powerful, it's like they like anchor us to the present.
Yeah, it's tough to step out of that. But then we also got to factor in habituation and variety,
Oh, yeah.
which Gilbert talks about.
Oh, right, right. So habituation, that's like getting used to things, even if they're good.
That's it. Like, think about your favorite food. That first bite, amazing.
Yeah.
But then, the more you eat, the less exciting it gets.
Yeah, or like a new phone. You're obsessed at first, then it's just, your phone.
Right. And that's where variety helps. Switching things up, trying new stuff, it keeps things interesting. Gilbert actually describes this study where people's enjoyment of a fancy meal depended on how fast they ate it.
Wait, seriously. How does like speed matter for happiness?
Well, it's about how quickly we get used to the flavors. If you eat slowly, you savor each bite, right? No habituation. But if you gobble it down, the enjoyment fades faster.
Makes sense. Like sipping wine versus chugging it, I guess.
Exactly. Taking your time, experiencing things fully, that can make a difference. But, this whole habituation thing, it makes you wonder about those big life events we think will bring us happiness.
Like, what if they're just temporary, like Gilbert's time bombs? Big excitement at first, then poof.
Yeah, it's the worry, isn't it? Some happiness is fleeting while other kinds are more, well, long-lasting.
It's like fast food versus a home-cooked meal, maybe. One's a quick fix, the other nourishes you for longer.
Good way to put it.
Right.
But okay, then there's the question of, like, how do we deal with the bad stuff, the disappointments?
Yeah, life isn't always sunshine and rainbows.
Definitely not. But luckily, we have this thing Gilbert calls the psychological immune system. It's how our minds deal with negative stuff,
Yeah.
often without us realizing it.
So it's like our brain's defense mechanism against feeling awful.
Exactly. And it's surprisingly good at, well, putting a positive spin on things. Like, Gilbert talks about this study where people imagined being rejected either by a judge or by a jury.
Uh-huh.
They thought they'd feel equally bad in both scenarios, but it turned out blaming the judge made them feel better.
Really? Why would blaming one person be easier?
It's easier to rationalize, I think. You can tell yourself, oh, that judge was biased or whatever. It's harder to do that with a whole group.
So sometimes a scapegoat, even if it's just in our heads, helps us cope.
It seems so. Our minds are clever like that.
Uh-huh.
But, this whole immune system thing, it can also make us underestimate how resilient we are.
Because our brains are so good at, like, talking us down from the ledge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We might avoid taking risks or going after what we want because we're afraid of the negative feelings.
Right.
But maybe we're stronger than we think.
Interesting. But okay, then Gilbert talks about these, what were they called? Super replicating beliefs.
Yeah, those are fascinating. It's the idea that some beliefs, even if they're not totally true, spread easily because they, like, serve a purpose.
So we're talking like cultural myths, things everyone believes even if they're not accurate.
Right. And think about it. Even inaccurate beliefs can be helpful, like the idea that money brings happiness.
Oh, yeah, we're all told that.
But studies show that, past a certain point, more money doesn't equal more happiness. Still, we believe it, and it keeps the economy going.
So it's a useful lie, basically.
Kinda. And Gilbert says this applies to other stuff, too, like the belief that having kids equals happiness.
Ooh, that's a touchy subject.
It is. But think about it. Research shows that couples are often less happy after having kids. But we still buy into the myth because, well, society needs people to have babies.
Wow, it really makes you question everything you've been told.
Right. It's a reminder to, like, be critical and look beyond the surface. And that brings us to one of Gilbert's most, I think, important points.
Surrogation.
Surrogation. Is
Yeah.
that like finding a substitute for something? Kind of. It's about how valuable it is to learn from other people's experiences, especially when it comes to happiness.
So instead of just using our imagination, which we know can be wonky,
Oh, yeah.
we should pay attention to what others have gone through.
Exactly. Like Gilbert did this study where people had to predict how much they'd enjoy an ice cream prize.
Okay.
The ones who based their predictions on other people's reports.
Hmm.
Way more accurate than those who just try to imagine it themselves.
Interesting. But isn't it hard to let go of that idea that we're, like, special and unique?
Oh, absolutely. That's what Gilbert calls the uniqueness bias. We think our experience will be different, even when it comes to happiness. We think other people's choices are about their personality, but ours are about the situation.
It's like we each think we're the exception to the rule.
Totally. But the thing is, we're more alike than we think. Other people's experiences can teach us a lot.
So it's not about losing our individuality, but about recognizing our shared humanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We learn from each other, you know?
Yeah.
It's like we have this massive library of experiences to draw on.
And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, right?
Yeah.
About how we're not always the best at knowing what'll make us happy. Like, we're trying to find our way blindfolded.
Yeah. And the more we learn about our brains, the more we realize happiness isn't like a finish line. It's more of an ongoing thing.
So we shouldn't be looking for that one magic bullet to make us happy.
Right. It's more about understanding how our minds work and making choices that, fit with that.
Like learning the rules of the game so we can play it better. It's kind of cool to know we can influence our own happiness.
For sure. But it also makes you realize, like, we're not totally in control of our emotions.
That's true. It's a bit of both, I guess.
Ah.
But so, does he give us any tips on how to make better choices for our future happiness, I mean?
He does. And a big one is to, like, question our assumptions. The things we believe about what'll make us happy. Money, marriage, that dream job.
Yeah.
It's not always how we picture it.
So we need to be like more aware, more open to challenging those ideas we have about happiness.
Exactly. And be willing to let go of what we think we should be doing, and just see what happens.
And be okay with surprises. Because happiness can pop up when you least expect it, right?
That's what Gilbert says. It's in the everyday stuff, the connections, the experiences that make us think differently. It's not always the big splashy things.
It's good to remember that. And I think it's something you'll really connect with given, how much you want to understand happiness.
Yeah, for sure.
It takes the pressure off, Instead of chasing happiness, we can just be more present, enjoy the ride, even the bumpy parts.
It's about finding those good moments, even when things are tough, and realizing happiness isn't a fixed point. It's always changing.
Well, I think we've done a pretty deep dive into stumbling on happiness today. Hopefully it's giving you some good food for thought.
Yeah, I definitely recommend reading the whole book if you want to learn more. It's really thought-provoking.
So one last thought for you all. If we're not so great at predicting our own happiness, how can we make choices that, our future selves will thank us for? It's a big question, and I think we all struggle with it.
It is. And maybe there isn't one perfect answer, but I think it's about being curious, being open to new things, and accepting that, well, happiness can be unpredictable.
Beautifully said. It's a journey, not a destination. And sometimes those stumbles along the way, they're the most important part.
The truth.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into stumbling on happiness. Keep those minds curious and those hearts open. We'll see you next time.